I'm joined by Paul Presinzano. He is one of three candidates running for the council seat in the first ward in the city of Hoboken. And I'd like to mention that the first ward is the only ward where we are guaranteed a new council representative because incumbent Michael DeFusco decided not to seek re-election. So, Paul, thank you for joining me on Hudson TV to talk about your campaign. I appreciate that.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. As you've gone through the campaign, speaking with your neighbors throughout the first ward, what have they been telling you that they believe to be are the most important issues within the ward? And what do you consider to be the most pressing things right now in the first ward?
We have listened to a variety of issues and concerns. I mean, ultimately, we have to say is everybody loves Hoboken. We can always make it better. Many people agree with that at the door. I think some of the big issues that we've seen, it depends on where you are in the ward. We are the commercial district. So therefore, when you're in the eastern part of the district, you tend to have a little bit difference with rats, garbage, e-bikes on the sidewalks. When you move down towards the south, the southwest, you've got more of kind of lighting, getting across the street, a little bit of flooding down there. When you move towards the center, you've got an issue of parking, rats, and the theme happens to be rats and garbage and just quality of life issues. So these are the top issues that we've heard. Ultimately, I take my guidance from what I hear from constituents or future constituents and formulate a plan on how we're going to go to attack those things. So for me, it's about local government. When you step outside your door, that's when local government's supposed to take over, make things safe for you. We're not supposed to see rats. We're not supposed to see garbage. We're not supposed to be hit by an e-bike. And let me make this clear. When I say e-bike, I'm talking more on the delivery e-bikes. It's not cyclists. Cyclists tend to be, follow the rules of the road, not on the sidewalks, causing a hazard for many people.
Let's talk about the issue of rats. That's something that over the last several months has really been in the news. I think that it's safe to say I look at you as almost being a watchdog. Since the administration took over after the last election, the current council, every day you're posting on social media, whether it's videos or comments or whatever. Day one, this happened. Day 27, this happened. Day 262, this may have happened. And one of the things you focused on most recently has been the issue of the infestation of the rodent population, unfortunately, in the city. Is the city doing enough? What more could they be doing? What would you, if you were to be elected, what would you do to kind of address that issue to rid the municipality of the rat problem?
I think the city council has actually looked at the problem and realized that there is an issue. Councilman DeFusco and Councilman Quintero have put together some legislation for the garbage cans, which I fully support, which is very smart. As I've been out knocking on doors, I can tell you the first ward's actually taken heed to this, and I've seen a lot of closed lids. And in areas where there were problems, I have seen, because I go on rat tours at night, I have seen the rodent population decrease because the food source is deprived of them. So I'm very supportive of that. The city did do something that you could say it was mine, you could say it was theirs, but I had proposed in my first rat plan to actually purchase garbage cans or offered them at a reduced rate. And what happened? We're now distributing cans now. They have 3,500 cans.
Yeah,
So I think this
started in the last couple of days.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny that we did this, but I've been ringing the bell on this for a while. Um, and it's something that it's not it's not a sexy topic. It's not a headline. It's not something that politicians want to speak about, but it's about a quality of life issue. And when you have rats, rats are dirty animals, and dirty animals can bring disease. And so I don't want to see something where we have a rat crisis that turns into a health crisis. I know for myself on our block, we've been successful by speaking with neighbors and working together. I believe it's a block by block approach instead of a band-aid by band-aid or house by house, because the rats just move from one house to the next. And I think we have to move quickly because the colder months are coming and they will look for warmer areas and sources of food for the winter months. I feel like I've gotten an education on rats with all the reading and interviews I've done with some exterminators to kind of figure out what they think. There's several causes to it, and everybody can point the finger. I'm not an extermination professional, But what I can do is listen to people and then give that information back. What I have seen is many people look at the parklets. There are some parklets that have issues. There are other parklets that are well maintained. The city council just passed some more ordinances against the or for the parklets. It's a step in the right direction, but ultimately it's just creating more work for fines and people inspecting and things like that. Parklets were there during the COVID times to help our businesses. It might be time to explore that we need to potentially look at a different way they are used. In other words, we can use streeteries instead of maybe the parklets. I understand people have put money towards the parklets, but they might have served their purpose. We have a bigger problem, and that's the rack prices.
A bit earlier, you mentioned the flooding issue. How bad is that in your particular ward as compared to other parts of the city? Enough being done in the first ward with regard to trying to ease the flooding problem?
Well, Rebuild by Design was what is it, 10 years ago now almost, that we were supposed to get a flood wall and we're supposed to get all this other stuff. We have got some pumps and I have seen a little bit of improvement, but yet continually down Newark Street when you come to Garden Park and Willow, and go straight down. We get a massive or get a storm and we've got flooding there completely and we have to redirect traffic. There's other parts of the ward, not so much in the eastern part, but further down, kind of when you get to Garden Park, like I said, when you move north in it, we still have the issues. I would think that in this day and age, we should be able to figure something that maybe we could pump the water to somewhere else, or we have a holding tank. I haven't delved in too much. I did do some studies that Rebuild by Design is basically to retain water, to hold it, and then slowly let it back out. So I think that maybe we need to explore some things that underground cisterns when we do new buildings that are bigger, and not only just when we do big buildings, when we do homes. If we put 1,000-gallon tank, if we can, in front of a brownstone when somebody has a renovation, and we put all the downspouts and everything into that might actually help slow things down. We could explore some things with new building with recycling gray water. That water we use for showers and washing dishes and washing our hands, that can be reclaimed, that can be used for either in your gardens, or it can be used for toilet water. That could be a thing where something that could work. It's worked in some of in San Francisco that they've used it, but they've only used it on large size houses. But in a town like ours, maybe that's something we have to explore. So I think in this, we've moved a little slow on Rebuild by Design. The wall's not up. It still hasn't come out. And I'm waiting to hear what usually the constituents tend to come with pitchforks to council meetings when things happen, not before they happen. So I don't know if anybody understands that that's going to be done, where there's going to be a wall around Hoboken. Right. And how that's going to look. It'll be an interesting thing to see how the voters react.
Professionally, for about the past 25 years or so, you've worked in the world of finance. Let me ask you this, and I know you probably don't get to see the actual documentation. Is Hoboken's budget bloated? Are there areas where you feel it could be trimmed?
Absolutely.
That's a loaded question, I know.
It's a very loaded question. Actually, in 2020, our budget was 120 million. We're now at 137 million only 3 years later. During COVID, our budget got bloated. And during that time, we didn't do anything to kind of pull the reins back. There was a lot of hires. I believe there's some synergies that can be worked between different departments, different parts of the government within the city, working potentially with the education side of things, working with the library. I think there's a lot of places where we could cut. I think one of the key things you have to remember is that think about your own budget, your own checkbook when you're at home, and the inflationary times that we're feeling now. What we tend to do, the way you beat inflation, is you actually cut back on things. So in other words, if something costs a lot of money, you may, instead of, for example, sorry to my vegetarian friends, but let's say you are a meat eater and price of beef has gone up to $20 a pound. Well, you might cut back and you might eat chicken. So I think the same kind of thing we have to do here in Hoboken is we need to look at our budget and realize we don't have to spend every single little penny. We have to start saving and looking for ways to better the services that we have with less money. And I think with technology, we can do that. There's a lot of things that I believe that could be slashed from the budget. I believe we're pretty top heavy in management. And I think we need to make sure that should be transferred back to the employees, because a happier employee will actually be more productive and more efficient and actually help us. So there's just little things that could be done that, again, are not headline grabbers, but are behind the scenes that can help government run more smoothly.
Okay, Paul, I want to thank you for speaking with me on Hudson TV. I'm sure you have a website for your campaign. Do you want to give us that web address so people can read up on your campaign?
Sure, it's www.presinzano4hoboken.com, and that's spelled Presinzano, the number 4, Hoboken, HOBOKEN.com.
Okay, again, Mr. Presinzano, thank you for speaking with me on Hudson TV. Good luck with your campaign, and I'm sure we'll be speaking with you down the line.
Thank you very much, Jeff.